Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm joined by James Mackenzie. It's half time at McDermott Park, and the score stands at St Johnstone 1, Celtic nil. Architects of our own downfall today, James. I've seen a performance being put in there by Celtic which lacks any kind of tempo. It's laboured, it's hard to watch, it lacks creativity. We look lethargic. We look as though there's players on that park that don't know what their game plan is. We're giving the ball away far too often. We've got an empty jersey in Yang who doesn't know the offside rule. We'd be as well giving the ball back to St Johnstone from corners because we can't create anything from them. Big problems at half time here, James. And I'm not overreacting. That was dreadful in the first half.
Yeah, it was a real tepid and slow start to the game from Celtic. One of the things I emphasised in my blogs in the build-up to the game was the importance of starting fast, because when Celtic have dropped points this season, it's because they've made the game stressful by not taking their opportunities in the early stages, and they've just not been quick enough. And I saw a tweet just a few moments ago saying that Rio Hatate is a massive miss, and you can see that how quick and how incisive he is with his passing. That would be absolutely vital for Celtic to help break a team like St Johnstone down, and it's only going to get more difficult in this second half because they're going to have every single man behind the ball, because they would take a draw from this game. They're not really played to win. They would take a draw from this match. They're going to be incredibly difficult for Celtic to break down, but it's just been really slow. I think the only player who's showed a real bit of impetus in that Celtic midfield is David Turnbull. He's been the one driving forward, getting a shot off. I think it's Celtic's only shot on target of the game so far came through David Turnbull. But I think the main talking point from that first half is going to be the goal, and it's an incredibly poor goal to lose.
Dreadful.
You're seeing that tactic from corners all across football over the last sort of few years. It's really been growing in use, and it's an effective corner tactic, crowding the goalkeeper. There's not enough space. There was some calls for a foul, which I didn't think it was. I think it's Taylor and McGregor that back into Joe Hart at that goal. It's a really poor one to lose, and you're going to be looking for a reaction in this second half.
Massively. You look at that goal, some people in the comments might think that there are certain players in the Celtic team who are devoid of any kind of criticism on Acsom. Well, I'll tell you, that goal, Matt O'Reilly's got to do better. I think Matt's defensive play this season has been phenomenal. One of the best elements of his toolbox. He's been Celtic's best player. I'll give all of that praise every single week. I'm praising him. He's poor at that. He's poor at defending that. Joe Hart, I'm sorry, that is dreadful. You know, against Motherwell, I was talking about it being a collective. You know how Ralston's got to do better before the corner's given away. McGregor doesn't have to give the corner away. Taylor, out-muscled. Hart has to command his area. Joe Hart is pushed over and then complains about it. It's like there's a woe betide me attitude at the moment, where it's like, you know what, you're playing against St Johnstone, who couldn't buy a win all season. They gave the job to a guy who hadn't managed a game of football for 4 years. People would call him a dinosaur, this and that. Well, I'll tell you what, that side, who don't spend any money on players, with that dinosaur in the dugout, is beating us 1-0, and deservedly so as well, James. We are not stepping up to the plate. There's a lot of people in the comment section targeting, probably the wrong word, pinpointing or highlighting the poor performance by Yang. And I'm going to do the same, right? See, if you're a professional footballer and in one half of football you're caught offside 4 times, there's something wrong. Now, there's an international language of football. Everybody knows the offside rule. Strangely enough, I think he's better defensively than he is on the attack. A few times to maybe sing his praises a wee bit, Matt O'Reilly has overlapped, if you like, to give him an out ball, and he's tried to hit the byline. It's as if Matt O'Reilly knows that if you hit that byline and get into the front post, I'm going to play Kyogo in. And he came close to doing it once and he won a corner kick. Kyogo was making that run to the front post, James. And the players themselves are having to figure this out. But the game plan is clearly to give Palma and Yang the ball and get them to flight it in. You could do that all day. St Johnstone will do that, and they'll be pretty confident and comfortable doing that all day long. We need to change it up.
Yeah, the moments where Celtic have looked the most threatening is when there's been a ball to the players making the runs in behind. I think there's a moment where David Turnbull gets through, and I think that's where he gets his shot off. And even Kyogo making some forward runs a couple of times, but they're just not getting picked out. you're looking for a bit more influence, a bit more involvement from the midfield as well. The likes of Matt O'Reilly, you mentioned him at the start of the broadcast that you thought he was pretty poor at the goal. And you're looking for someone, we've seen this season how high his performance levels can be when he's at the top of his game. And you're really looking for him to step up in the second half. I think Luis Palma was trying to make stuff happen. You can't say that he isn't. He's really been trying to get something off. He has a poor shot towards the end of that first half, but he's been trying to make something happen. Yang Hyun-jun on the opposite side, I don't think he's been the best today. There was a moment, I think it's for Turnbull's offside goal, where you can see how far offside he actually is. There's a bit of work even done there. Some of his defensive work was good though. There was a good few moments where it was almost like Maeda usually does, with the tenacity, just never letting up for the ball. But do you hook him at half time? Do you make a substitution at half time? Does Celtic wait till the 60th minute? I'm not too sure. I think Rodgers might look to try and talk some sense into the team at half time, change things up. And then when it comes to the 60-minute mark, perhaps a change of personnel if something hasn't worked. But when you look at the bench, I saw some comments coming in on the pre-match broadcast we did saying when you look at the bench, it's pretty worrying. And when you look at the options available in the attacking areas, it is pretty worrying. We've got Abada and Maeda out, so options there are pretty threadbare. And when you're looking for someone on that bench to try and spark some life in a Celtic attack, it isn't exactly exciting viewing, but who do you bring on? I think I mentioned in a few of my blogs during the week that I'd like to see Mikey Johnstone involved in the game this weekend. And when you look at the game against Lazio, Celtic had a good sort of 20-minute spell in that second half. And that was after Mikey Johnstone came on and was driving at the defence. And even against Motherwell last week when he wins the penalty. So I think perhaps bringing on Mikey Johnstone in the 60th minute could be something Celtic go for, as much as if you'd said to me I'd be asking for Mikey Johnstone to get subbed on 2 months ago, it wouldn't have exactly inspired too much hope into me.
No, this is the thing, James, right? And in many ways, you've actually got to put that at the back of your mind. If at any point in this season we were told that in a game against St Johnstone, who won murder earlier on this season, in December, up at McDermott, at half-time, you're going to be relying on Mikey Johnstone to come on and change the game because you're getting beat 1-0, you would think, oh, we're in a bad place. Listen, that's the reality of it. You're going to have to look at that bench and someone's got to step up, because see, last season we were banging on constantly about 60 minutes, change 5 players, change the game. You can go at a high tempo under Ange up until 60 minutes because you know you've got 5 guys who can come off the bench. We no longer have that. We don't have the creative options on the bench. And I know that we've lost a bit of quality. I know that we've got injuries as well. But we're being asked here by the Big Shed, how do you change it up? Well, there's 2 ways, personnel or shape. And I think a wee bit of both actually here, right? Your best player, bar none, on that park is Kyogo Furuhashi, yet he looks a shadow of his former self. How do you get him back playing the way he was playing last season? Well, it's not working this way, so you've got to change it up. You've got to either change the way that the wingers are delivering the ball, or you actually change the shape of the game so that we've got 2 up top, which will allow Kyogo to come deeper, and then obviously match up with O, for example, who's on the bench. Who comes off? Take your pick. I mean, if we play 4 at the back, as we are at the moment, you're inviting St Johnstone on, who, by the way, early on, I think they smelt blood, James. There's a comment here about Taylor's first 6 passes. I never counted it as 6. If it was 6, fair enough. I did count 2 in quick succession. If you're giving the ball away that cheaply early in the game, your opposition number is smelling blood straight off the bat. They're building in confidence and momentum. They get a couple of attacks that come to nothing, James, but they're starting to believe, wait a minute, this team's not up too much here. And in the first 15, 20 minutes, I'm looking at the game and I'm thinking, whenever we get a corner, Palmer has got a beautiful delivery, by the way. I'm not blaming him. Whenever we've got a corner, we'd be as well giving the ball back to St Johnstone because we never create nothing from them. But see, when we concede one, James, I'm sitting there wondering, oh no, can we defend this? So why is it that we can't defend at a simple set play, yet every team can defend them against us? We have no aerial prowess in the box when we're trying to attack a corner. There was 2 occasions, Palmer, who's switching from left to right, found Liam Scales. Now, Liam Scales, fair enough, maybe in an aerial duel, but both balls landed at his feet. The second one was a gilt-edged chance. If you're a striker, that's the equaliser. But we're really, really poor when it comes to set pieces. We seem to have a lack of invention and a lack of ideas. And if that's down to the individuals, then Rodgers The focus is on Rodgers during this 15-minute halftime break. I mean, again, he's probably one man we've not given a huge amount of criticism to. It comes in to the club where we all understand, we said it at the beginning, James, at the beginning of the show, we all understand that a lot of the players that were already on their way in the building wouldn't really have had much involvement from Brendan Rodgers, right? He's put that out there himself. He needed more quality. Well, you know what? Deal with what you've got, because you've got a squad of players that are far superior to the team you're playing against today. You've got a manager who recently was playing at the top level, managing at the top level of one of the biggest and best leagues in European football, and you're coming up against Craig Levein. Craig Levein, right? Who's never had a management job in 4 years, James. There was gasps when St Johnstone appointed him because he's been so out the picture for so long. So if you believe that you're that level of club playing against St Johnstone, prove it. Go out there in the second half, prove that you're that coach that can, in match, change something to win the game. Because in that first half, I'll tell you what, St Johnstone are deserving of the lead. They're deserving of that lead because we've not been clinical. You're right, David Turnbull, I think's had a great shot at goal. He kind of created it himself with the wee turn from the right foot to the left. Great save by the goalkeeper. Other than that, what other chances have we created, James? We've really lacked creativity.
Yeah, apart from the Turnbull goal that was given as an offside, there's not really been much created from Celtic at all. You spoke on set pieces. That isn't a new problem. That's been a problem since way before even Ange was in charge, defending them and attempting to score them. And you wonder why, because there's some good players in the air in that Celtic team. The likes of, you mentioned Liam Scales before. You'd be expecting him to be a bit better from these sort of situations. But it's shooting yourself in the foot when you concede a goal like that. It's an incredibly poor goal to concede. And I don't know who you point the finger at for that goal. Who do you point the blame to? I don't think there's a single player that the blame lies on, because it's a combination of errors. It's so many players that aren't at the top of their game there. And it's going to be a big second 45 minutes for Celtic, because they need a reaction. They can't go 3 games in all competitions without a win. That's not going to be good for Brendan Rodgers, especially heading into such a busy festive period. But the question is, when do you change it in the game? What point do you change it? Do you change it at half-time, or do you change it at 60 minutes? But I think you mentioned a change of shape, and I think that could be a move that you potentially look to go for. I think part of the reason Kyogo isn't getting involved in the game is because it's been made into a physical battle. And that's only going to be further enhanced in the second half when there's so many bodies flooding that St Johnstone box. So bring on someone like O, who can bring that physical presence up front, who will be up for a bit of a battle up there, and can lay the ball off to Kyogo if need be. I think that could be a wise move from Celtic. I think even Rodgers may be encouraged to even turn to someone like James Forrest, just given, I know people complain about his lack of pace nowadays, but in a game like this, you're not going to need a bit of pace to break down this Johnstone team. It's going to be about technical prowess when you're trying to take on a man, and it's going to be about experience as well. And James Forrest has probably been in God knows how many games in a Celtic shirt where things are going to be a bit tight. You've got to try and get some goals late on in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers even turns to James Forrest. I mean, he's done it at this ground before for Brendan Rodgers, but as we mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, it's not exactly inspiring reading when you're looking at the options available on the bench for the forward areas.
Not individually, no, and that's, I think, where the shape comes in. Somebody, if you're going to introduce some of the guys from the bench, James, it's the shape that's going to actually benefit you rather than the individual player. And Uncle Nobby Steamboat says from Ange ball to board ball. Well, hopefully it's no Ange ball to burst ball in the second half. And this is what I'm talking about, James. It doesn't always come down to money, but I tell you what, if you want to earn your crust today as a manager and as a player, you go out there and it's a test of character now. We're a goal down. It's half time. We've already shown a few, for me, wobbles in the last few weeks. Obviously, Motherwell was a wobble. And, you're getting the game out the way first in this title challenge, in this title race. You're getting our game out the way first. You go out and you win that game. And there's, that's non-negotiable in the second half. So for that reason, I think you change it, because it's no worked in the first half. You change it at half time. You go out in the second half. You show your tactical prowess as a coach. You show your character as a player, and you win the game. But a lot of the things we've been talking about can be changed at half time, James. The way that we deliver crosses, for example, you can change that. The shape, you can change that at half time, and you can completely change the game with a couple of additions in the second half. So let's go and join the action. And yes, I can understand your frustration. We're feeling frustrated as well here on the Acsom live stream. We'll be back at full time. What kind of second half will we be talking about? Let's hope it's one where Celtic score a couple of goals and come out victorious with the 3 points. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you to James McKenzie for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.